Hey everybody, it's me, CC Trubiak, and welcome back to CC's Vinyl Closet. If this is your first time here, well, let me break it down for you. CC's Vinyl Closet is where I just love listening to a lot of classic country music on vinyl record, and then sharing the gospel of what I get out of it with you guys, my faithful listeners. So, if hearing a little bit about the gospel of Barbara Mandrell sounds like your kind of thing today, well then I encourage you, find a comfy spot to sit for a little spell, turn up the volume, maybe grab yourself a cup of coffee, and let's get ready to bask in the glory of Barbara Mandrell. Born Barbara Ann Mandrell on December 25th, 1948. She's best known as Barbara Mandrell, American country music singer and musician. And today, she is 74 years old and still going strong. Born in Houston, Texas, she is the eldest of 3 girls, all who grew up acquainted with music. Barbara herself played both at home and publicly, her first years performing in church, if you can believe this. I discovered before, around the age of 6, she learned to play saxophone while a part of her school band. She took lessons on the steel guitar, and her natural talents took her to music trade shows. Country performer Joe Maphis would go on to help launch Barbara's early career as a musician. I had always known of Barbara's talents, but this particular deep dive truly has illuminated me on her history in country music. She is clearly an artist who grew up with not only the natural gifts and skills to play, but also early exposure to the business side of things. Because history does indicate she succeeded in the business. At age 11, she was performing her steel guitar in Las Vegas as part of Joe Maphis's act, and by 1962, she was touring country music shows with Johnny Cash and Patsy Cline. She performed with greats like Tex Ritter and Little Jimmy Dickens. By 14 years old, her parents formed the Mandrell family band, where she played steel guitar and met her future husband, drummer Ken Dudney. They got married in 1967. Incredibly enough, Barbara just continued to learn her craft, even taking on banjo and bass guitar. Hot dang, I admire her sheer determination and skills. These were the skills that eventually caught the attention of 6 different record companies at the very end of the 1960s, all of who offered her recording contracts. In 1969, she signed with Billy Sherrill, the Billy Sherrill, on Columbia Records as a recording artist, and the rest became her recording history. As a kid growing up in the 80s and 90s, I'll always recall that song. Sleeping single in a double bed, tossing, turning, trying to forget. I should be lying here with you instead. I'm sleeping single in a double bed. I remember this song, and it's from 1978. But funny enough, I did not know all that much about her life and career prior to CC's Vinyl Closet. However, I am pretty excited I can now appreciate her more fully. As history shows, she's literally one of country music's most successful artists and all-around entertainers. Here's a few stats. Between 1971 and 1944, Barbara released 25 studio albums, and here in my very own collection, I have 3 of these albums. Incredibly enough, one of them happens to be her debut 1971 Treat Him Right, released on Columbia Records and produced by the late, great Billy Sherrill. And this sounds like a Sherrill-produced album through and through, 100%. In 1971, Barbara Mandrell was 23 years of age, and there are a total of 11 songs, all of which stand out for having a country soul sound, if you will. And by that, I mean, although this record is country music all the way through and through, in that it's chock full of fiddles, steel guitar, and dobro, it also includes covers of rhythm and blues songs too, like Otis Redding's I've Been Loving You Too Long and Aretha Franklin's Do Right Woman, Do Right Man. I'm not kidding you. And this in itself was refreshing to my ears, as I believe Barbara Mandrell is the first female artist I've heard offering that particular blend, which also has a country pop blend. For 23 years of age in 1971, Barbara already possessed qualities that made her authentic. But even more so, these qualities would eventually see Barbara going on to become one of the biggest show queens of country music. Of course, thanks to breakthrough women like Loretta, Dolly, and Tammy. To comment quickly on her version of Do Right Woman, Do Right Man, Aretha Franklin's gospel-toned version had been released in 1967, and to me, Aretha's is as perfect as it can come. However, once I rid myself of the constructs of comparisons, I can absolutely hear the unique merit of Barbara's. It's a country soul take. Barbara's version, which features incredible musicianship by the likes of Harold Bradley, Pete Drake, Grady Martin, and of course, the Jordanaires, is its own entity worth hearing. Country ladies feel soul too, and I appreciate this part of Barbara Mandrell.
Take me to heart, and I'll always love you. And nobody can make me do wrong. Take me for granted, leaving love unshown. Makes willpower weak and temptation strong. A woman's only human, this you should understand. She's not just a plaything, she's flesh and blood, just like a man. If you wanna do right home days, woman, you gotta be a do right home nights man. If you wanna do right home days, woman, you gotta be a do right home nights man.
This debut record of hers also features country soul interpreted versions of the Box Tops' 1967 hit, The Letter, and it featured the often covered J.D. Loudermilk, Break My Mind, which at this point I've already heard covered by Linda Ronstadt and Anne Murray, and I'm sure it's covered by many others. Plus, there's a cover of the Joe South penned Games People Play. All of these are great examples of her showmanship. I think perhaps my favorite discovery is the album's title track called Treat Him Right, written by Roy Head. Essentially, it's a cautionary song for girls to treat their men, well, right. Nothing particularly groundbreaking for lyrics, sure, but it's in the musicianship and the singing by Barbara that truly sells it. Treat Him Right, the song, hit number 12 on the country Billboard charts for Barbara, her first biggest release till that point.
I wanna tell you a story every girl ought to know. If you want a little loving, you gotta start real slow. He's gonna love you tonight if you just treat him right. Squeeze a little gentle, you gotta make him feel good. Tell him that you love him like you know you should. 'Cause if you don't treat him right, he won't love you tonight. Hey, 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 ooh. If you practice my maintenance just as hard as you can, you're gonna get the reputation that you can love your man. And you'll be glad every night that you treated him right.
All in all, I'm just glad that I've done my homework and I've taken the time to better appreciate the talents of Barbara Mandrell, who, for years, they called the Princess of the Steel and the face of Blue-Eyed Soul. After this record, of course, she would go on to achieve major crossover success, becoming an Opry cast member in 1972, and unknown to her at the time, but a trailblazer for women trying to make it in a business dominated by men. She'd go on to develop some of country music's flashiest shows, dazzling the audiences with her performances on stage and television too. In 1979, Barbara Mandrell was named Female Vocalist of the Year by the Country Music Association, and, if you can believe it, in 1980 and 1981, she won back-to-back Entertainer of the Year honors. Way to go, girl! She's the golden girl of Music City. I look forward to listening to more of Barbara Mandrell over time, and this essentially wraps up today's thoughts on her debut album, Treat Him Right. What are your guys' thoughts and recommendations? Please drop me your comments below. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and thank you so much for tuning in to today's installment. Until next week, take care of you and take sweet comfort in the music.